What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I wanted to make myself mad. I actually originally had planned a different game for a different video, and I'm still going to do the game. I won't tell you the name right now, keep it a surprise, but I thought, okay, I can't do that right now. I need to get the game physically, or I want to get the game physically, so that'll have to wait. I do just want to get a game out in a video that just boils my blood, makes me want to, like, hate life, hate the industry, the gaming industry, and so what game could that be? Well, New Tales from the Borderlands definitely fits that description. It's actually been a little over a year. It actually feels like a century ago that we played this classic gem. And what makes me so frustrated versus actually like the game I wanted to talk about, it's not just about New Tales from the Borderlands being terrible, because I think it is a terrible, terrible video game, but it's also about how it destroys a franchise, and not destroys Borderlands per se. In fact, I don't really care what it would do to the Borderlands franchise. I care what it's done to Tales from the Borderlands, and it's so jarring when you go back and actually leading into this game, although I actually had very little hope, and I made videos about it last year leading into it, and it just never looked good. The protagonist never looked engaging. It didn't look funny. It didn't look like anything, and it didn't look like Tales from the Borderlands. I actually went back and I played the original Telltale, Tales from the Borderlands, and that game freaking rocks. In fact, it's still one of my favorite games of all time, and underratedly, you know, like Telltale's got some gems, got some classics. Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, those two probably their best. Tales, man, either second, maybe third, maybe even first to some people. It is such a well-rounded game with action, with comedy, with emotion, genuine care for those characters, and you can go down the list of Gordis and Reese and Fiona and Loaderbot and everybody in that game is so good and so endearing in some way. And then for this game, they either were completely tossed out, which originally that just made me so frustrated, where it's like you have truly, you have an all-star cast. You have one of the best casts assembled in video games, period. I don't care what you say. I really believe that about Tales from the Borderlands, because again, it's not even just like one or two standout characters. It's everybody, and you can go down the list to like the 7th or 8th character, and they're still kind of legendary. And that's very rare. It's very special, I think, in a game. So you already had that. So what do? Well, you bring Reese back, but I mean, you already ruined Reese in Borderlands 3, so now you do it again, and you don't like absolutely destroy him. He does have a few good moments in New Tales from the Borderlands, but overall he's pretty bad. Fiona, spoiler alert in case you care, Fiona is a end credit thing where she's like teased where, oh god, you're gonna make more of these games. So it's like, okay, you bring Laura Bailey back, I guess that's cool, but not really. Like, I don't want you to ruin her either. You've already ruined Reese through other means, and now you're going to ruin her through future games. I don't think you're going to get future games, but you did that. Everybody else gone. Absolutely gone. It doesn't matter because you're focusing on a new cast of characters. Now, to some degree, that makes sense because this isn't Telltale anymore, right? Now this is Gearbox taking over, and that was already kind of a mistake because, look, I'm not all that into, Gearbox, or I'm not all that into Borderlands, but one thing that I have observed and one thing that I've read about and watched multiple video essays about was kind of the decline or downfall now of Gearbox, specifically in their writing department. I've watched several hour-long, feature films almost on just how bad, the Borderlands 3 story / the Calypso twins, I believe is what they're called, right? Like, just how bad all of them are. And I mean, they make some very good points. They do really good, analysis of it. And I think it's very clear to say, or very easy to say, that writing is not Gearbox's strong suit, which, by the way, is fine. It doesn't have to be. I actually like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I actually really liked that game. I wasn't playing it for any other reason than to kind of have fun, played it with my wife, co-op, same television, all that stuff. Like, it was fine. But when you do a game like this, Tales from the Borderlands, or New Tales from the Borderlands, the focus is so heavily on story. It needs to be. It needs to be on character development. It needs to be on issues these characters have with each other and resolving it. That's what the whole game should be about. And it is, but it's not good. You know what I mean? And that's just a huge problem that you gave it to Gearbox, like took it back, whatever ended up happening behind the scenes. And so that's like my primary point here. Not only, and we'll talk about, the game itself, not only is the game itself just not good, and there are a couple somewhat okay scenes, I think, to like the Shark Tank kind of arena thing that happened. Like, that was kind of clever. That was a little bit different than what we've seen before. And, you know, I don't know, the choice-based thing. Like, there are some okay moments throughout the game. I think even towards the ending, it kind of starts to pick up. And I would say, like, easily the last couple episodes of the game, I believe, released as, like, a full thing, but you can kind of play it episodically. The ending is definitely better than the beginning. And I think there was like a guard. There's like one guard, right, that pops up throughout the entire game, and he's hilarious. Like, whoever wrote that guard's lines should have written the entire game, because that guard is very, very funny. But just that's the highlight. I mean, really, like, visually, they did take a step up. I would have liked to have seen the visuals with, you know, the cast. I guess we did it with Reese, right? But everybody else, I would have liked to seen it with the visuals. But the writing quality is just not there. The set pieces are just not there. The emotion, specifically the emotions, and that's what makes me so mad about it. I think it's a very, very bad game. On top of, I've never, like, have you ever seen a game, because it is in the same franchise, like, you know, Reese exists, right? So it is the Tales from the Borderlands is a canonical, like, event that happened, you know what I mean? So have you ever seen basically a 1 to a 2, you know, a first game in a franchise to the sequel? Have you ever seen such a dramatic drop? I think about it as much as I can, and I mean, I really don't know what game has suffered. Maybe, like, there's some, like, you maybe think, like, when franchises have fallen off the cliff, like Resident Evil or Silent Hill, like, two horror examples that I guess come to mind, you know, or even Halo with Halo 4 or Gears, right? Like, there are some franchises that will fall, but from the first game to the second game, normally you're on the up and up. You're doing some, like, incredible things by the second or third game. Like, that is your peak. Think Uncharted. Think, you know, things like that. Like, you know, obviously that's where they really hit their stride. This game just completely falls apart. So that's what's more upsetting to me, is you had the foundation, not even just a foundation. You had an amazing, a legendary, a game of the year type, game of the generation type game in Tales from the Borderlands already. It's not like you didn't even have it. It's not like you just did have a foundation and you had to kind of build off of it to really make something special. No, Telltale did that originally. They nailed it first try. They didn't even need to kind of like get into those growing pains. And I've talked about this with Tales from the Borderlands. That got me in to the franchise. That was the game. Now, I believe I had played Borderlands 1 before it. I actually got Borderlands on the Vita, so like I was around with Borderlands, but just not, it wasn't like my thing too much, and I just didn't play it all that often. Tales is what got me into the world of Pandora. It made me interested in stories that could take place around there with companies and factions and battles and just the planet itself and the political kind of stuff. Truly, like, dead serious, Tales from the Borderlands is what got me into, even like Handsome Jack. I forgot about him when I was listening to the incredible cast. What a freaking villain. Incredible. And then even what they do, like, it makes me more mad. See how I'm getting more mad? I can kind of feel it in my heartbeat right here. Even him, like, towards the end of Tales from the Borderlands, like, he's so good when he's lost and you decide, you know, to pull the plug on him or not. Like, it's so freaking good. There is nothing in new Tales from the Borderlands that's even close to any of, like, the top 20 moments. Scooter and in space, like, all of the, I'm just thinking. And I mean, it really doesn't stop, because there's some, like, high octane action sequences. The ending when you're basically doing like a Power Rangers battle, like, it's freaking awesome. And there's nothing like that. These characters are so lame. They're so pathetic. And like, Reese was pathetic, but not really. Like, and I think that's kind of where they missed the mark here, is Reese. I mean, they've kind of made him more and more of like a joke of a character, which really, really ticks me off, because yeah, I wouldn't even say like failure, like, he messed a lot of stuff up. He was cowardly at times, but when he needed to step up, like, he had a really good moral compass, at least if you do the right decisions. And I don't know, his underlying numbers in sports, he was extremely, like, compassionate and caring, and falling in love with Sasha, right? Like, all that stuff. It's like, he's so good, and I just don't think they looked past the surface level with him in terms of what they did with him for Borderlands 3 and then even New Tales. And I think that was their theme when they created these characters. Is, I don't know, we're gonna like go very stereotypical with all three of them, and some of them are gonna kind of just be flat out losers, and we're just gonna like ride this out. And like, I remember playing this game and thinking the biggest flaw I think this game has is those protagonists, because none of them engaged me literally at all. And the writing is terrible. Like, the writing is absolutely some of the worst writing you'll ever see in your life. It's not funny. It's not impactful. There is no emotion. There is no care. These characters, if they try to make them do something that they think is funny, it's never funny. Again, like that security guard, truthfully, is the best character in the entire game. He's also the best written character in the entire game. And that really, to me, highlights the issue where, again, like actually thinking about the story and thinking about where it goes, like it's fine. It's not good, but it's like, it's serviceable. And I do think it kind of picks up as it goes along, but and even, I don't know, some of the choices, like it's whatever. I guess at the end, it's definitely more impactful, but those characters, like, look, when you're playing a game and you can control, even if it's just one character. Now, obviously in the first game, you control both Fiona and Reese, but in this one, you control 3. If it's one character, if it's 2 characters, if it's 3 characters, you gotta make them impactful. This goes back to the central point. This is not Borderlands. It's not. It's got Borderlands in the name, but don't be fooled. You can't hide behind the looter box, the finding the treasure boxes with the weapons and constantly upgrading and fighting enemies. Like, there is something highly addicting to that. There's something really fun about that, and I get it, because like Tiny Tina's, and I've played some Borderlands games, so I understand that. But you can hide behind that. And I think a lot of people would maybe agree, specifically maybe Borderlands 3, right? Because the story of 1 and 2 is often looked at as pretty darn good. But when you look at 3, I think you can hide behind the combat. You cannot hide behind combat in an 8-hour story-driven game where you're going to hear a lot of dialogue. You're going to choose what you have to say to the character. You pick outcomes, and you are glued to a character the entire time, and then you'll switch and you'll be glued to another character the entire time. You cannot hide behind fancy combat when that's not the case. You don't have that. There is some combat, but it's obviously not like that, right? You cannot hide behind it, and that really puts the focus. And that's why I try to make a point in the beginning, like, it's okay if story is not your strong suit, right? Now, you could say, well, like, maybe get better writer, or, whatever the case may be. All right, whatever. But if writing is not your strong suit, or story is not your strong suit, you can hide behind other things. You can do other things. You can appeal to your strengths and not your weaknesses. But for this, it's like, well, and I guess that's like, you have to like look internally for that, right? You have to know what you're good at or what you're not good at. And I don't think they know. I truly do not think they have any idea. I think they think very highly of themselves, or at least Randy Pitchford, like all that jazz, right? I think that's the case here. So when that happens, okay, well, they think they are really good writers, and they're just flat out not. I think they said like maybe they brought some Telltale people in to help. I feel like that's either a flat out lie, they brought the wrong Telltale people back, or those Telltale people lost half of their brain like in the last 10 years, because there's no excuse for how you go. And like, that would be very shocking to me, that you would go from writing Tales in the Borderlands, and then your next great pitch, your next great idea is to make this game, and you come up with the characters and all that stuff. I don't know what happened to you from the first game to the second game, but something clearly, like, you lost talent. You literally lost. And I mean, like, am I insulting them? Yes. But ultimately, and here's the thing, they insulted me. I fully believe, for those that truly care about Tales from the Borderlands, they insulted all of us. Now, the game got bashed, and the game doesn't have good scores, but it's not looked at, I think, as badly as I'm describing it. I have seen some like video essays on YouTube talking about how it's like one of the worst things on planet Earth. I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see it got a lot. I think there was one that had like 300,000 plus views. I'm glad to see that, because I don't know, for me, I just can't imagine even saying this game is okay. I like that is an insult to okay games. It really is, because the writing here is just so bad, and you go from Tales to this game. I think the first insulting thing, again, is just removing like the lore and the legacy of Tales. You could have easily, but yet again, maybe they did know what they were doing, because if you have the same talent that worked on, say, a Tales from the Borderlands 2, and you brought everybody back, and you have the talent that you have, and you destroy the entire thing, here's the thing, and this is something I kind of take with me. At least you just destroyed and just came up with terrible characters out of the blue, right? You did ruin Reese, but I think he can always be redeemed, and you just leave him alone for now. Fiona, just don't bring her back. I know you already hinted at it, but just don't make another one of these games and you should be fine. And everything else can kind of be patched up, right? Like you could maybe you could make an actual Tales from Borderlands 2 one day. Not Gearbox, somebody else. For the love of God, somebody else. But you could probably do it. So I would say that is a positive, because if you did what you did here with the cast of one and you brought everybody back and it was a big old reunion, I don't know, like, I think it would be better, because like the talent of like the acting and like maybe they would fight for their characters a little. I don't know, but I feel like it would be helped a little. But at least they came up with 3 unlikable loser characters that are just not engaging at all, and they ruined them. But like, it doesn't, like, can you name me them? It doesn't matter. None of these characters matter. None of what happens matters, because it's just not an impactful game. And the fact that they thought they could get away with it, that's what really makes me upset. And so going forward, as I've said, like, I never ever want them to touch this franchise ever. And again, franchise meaning Tales. I don't care, like Borderlands, keep on going, do your thing, whatever. You make a lot of money, I get that. Never ever touch this franchise ever again. And I think the message was kind of sent loud and clear. I feel like the trailers were always ratioed, which is always a good sign. Comments were always negative, against them, not against me. When people played it, again, generally, the best that you got was the game was okay. And then the worst that you got is somebody like me, which is the game is like one of the most insulting things you could do. So if like that's the range, then hopefully, like even Borderlands 3 did not get that kind of, I think Borderlands 3 kind of got both ends, where people just thought it was complete trash, but then also people like gave it all the benefits of the doubt. I think you had that. Maybe not, but that's how I kind of see it. For this game, I cannot see you looking at this game and saying that it's a good game. I'm a man of saying, like, I'll respect your opinion if you respect my opinion, but let me throw out a controversial opinion for you. If you think that this game is a good game, good, great, awesome game, I really would question the kinds of games that you've played in your life. And I can make a list for you. I can make like 50 games and give it to you on paper, and I can mail it to you, and you can play like some good games, because this is not a good game. And that, I'm overstepping what I would consider my moral ground, but sometimes you have to do that, especially for a game like this where it ruins something that I loved growing up. It was a franchise that, again, like, this got me into Borderlands. This was peak Telltale. It really was. Like, they, Walking Dead, they were finding their groove. And I think, obviously the emotion and characters of like Lee and Clementine, you can't beat, so Walking Dead is timeless. It's legendary. Wolf Among Us, I thought, was extremely good. I feel like that's kind of the most polarizing, where you either really liked it or you weren't really into it. Tales kind of came out of nowhere, like literally nowhere. And I don't want to say it's the best of the 3, but thinking about it, like talking about it in this context, it may have been, because I just feel they were firing on all cylinders. The writing was skillful, so the characters, the story, the gameplay, because it had some amazing moments, the emotion, they captured emotional moments, maybe not, as severely, like as high octane as Walking Dead, but they did it in their own way. And they had action like Wolf Among Us in their own way. So I kind of feel like it was the best that we had gotten. I don't know, maybe it is my favorite Telltale game they've ever made. And then after that, they really started to kind of go crazy with like all their 50 games and going bankrupt and all that. And like, that's it. That was Telltale. So, I think Tales was kind of the peak. And then after that, Minecraft and Game of Thrones and all that stuff, it kind of started to crumble a little bit. So, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Please don't ever play this game. Maybe watch it if you're... I mean, honestly, it's so unbearable that I don't even think you can watch it, like, for fun. I think you'd probably rather see somebody tear it apart than actually do it yourself. I don't know. Funny story to end this video. Now I'm going late. They actually gave me a code. Now, they didn't do it early. They gave me a code for this game the day the game came out. I'll say this, for as much as I've bashed them, I respect that. Because I was not hiding that I was not looking forward to this game. I wanted to play it to see how bad it was going to be. So, you know, credit to them, I suppose, for like giving me a chance, and I didn't necessarily, you know, repay them back, but that just goes to show you can't buy my opinions. You can't give me codes and expect me to say nice things. So all those people that say, you know, shilling and stuff, nope, not me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.